Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another spoiler review. This month we'll be continuing on, aside from tomorrow when I'll be doing a spoiler review for the final James Bond film. But for the bulk of the month, we'll be doing like a decent amount of Halloween films. And right now, because last week I did uh, uh, Dracula Untold. Today, I'll be covering Hocus Pocus. Then, right after this, I'll be covering Halloween Town. And it'll be uh, more stuff like that for this month. And then next year, I'll have another batch to cover for you guys. So, for the time being, I'm putting like a pause for Spider-Man and Batman films until November. So, anyway, yeah. So now, Halloween Town. I mean, Hocus Pocus. Shit. Oh my god. I mean, this is one of those movies where it's like you can tell what kind of decade it is. I mean, me personally, because like, certain movies when people point out like, oh yeah, that's a total '80s film, or yeah, that's definitely like a '70s type of vibe. Uh, the Joker movie, you can tell what kind of decade we're dealing with. This one, it's like I watched this as a little kid. It's one of those like Disney original movies that you know Disney back in the '90s, early 2000s, they were you know hitting those original Disney movies like like keep it 100. They were good at those. I mean, to this day, there's a lot of people still love Halloween Town. Don't Look Under the Bed, which I'll probably cover next year. Uh, shoot. Uh, Crap. Smart House. Things like that. Man, this is this is like Luck of the Irish. There was like good. I mean, they're cheesy, but it's just like, you know, it's not like, well, I guess to some people there might be, you can see like the actors are leaning into the cheesiness of it, but it's just it's like you can tell they're just enjoying it for the most part. It's not super serious. It's like a fun kids film, and Halloween Town. It's just like there's certain Halloween movies that's like, especially kid Halloween movies or preteens, they just drip Halloween. Like Nightmare Before Christmas, it drips Halloween, and it's like you get into the spirit looking at this because it's like wall to wall, like autumn, fall, just just very tasteful, just Halloween, decorations and costumes. It's like it reminds you how much fun the holiday is. It's probably like easily one of the best holidays. It's like almost like tied with Christmas. It's how like the best holiday out of the years. That's why it's like as soon as September hits, we already seeing like tons of Halloween stuff in the stores, decorations and costumes on sale and all that other stuff. And you got uh shoot this movie stars uh crap, I'm blanking on her name. She's related to uh Princess Leia. Crap. No, I'm blanking on like no, I'm talking about Hocus Pocus. Like I'm watched the movies back to back, so I'm like because they both start with H. I'm sitting there, but still, my point still stands. I'll get to Halloween Town after this, but Hocus Pocus is the same thing. It drips Halloween, and uh, It stars, Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy, uh, Amari Katz, Thor Birch, and Vanessa Shaw. Uh, man, I gotta admit, just right off the bat, these three ladies did their thing in this. I mean, Hocus Pocus is like one of the staples or like the foundations of Halloween. It's especially when it comes to film, and it's like when these three actresses are just, and when I rewatched this, I was like, wait a minute, they're supposed to be making a sequel to this, and I'm thinking that's supposed to be coming out next year, because I don't know when they was like working on it, because it was like speculation for the longest time until I think either Sarah Jessica Parker or Bette Midler had to confirm that. So I don't know what's going on with that right now, but I am intrigued. I don't know how, given the ending, I don't know how it's going to be working. Well, I equally question the new Ghostbusters movie that's supposed to be coming out next month. And they found a way to work around, Harold Ramis's death. But anyway, Bette Midler plays Winnie Sanderson. Sarah Jessica Parker plays Sarah Sanderson. Kathy Najimy plays Mary Sanderson. And they play like man, their outfit and their outfits are just like, I don't know who's the costume designer in this, because like I'm pretty sure they've been don't know who the costume designer is, because crap, it doesn't say like who's the costume designer, but whoever it was, they they did that thing, because they're the Sanderson sisters costumes were like, to this day, are like constantly being used by a lot of females, especially like three group of friends or sisters. They always sometimes they somebody come up with an idea at some point to like, oh, let's come dressed as the Sanderson sisters, and like it's just, I mean, it's just amazing. I love the Sanderson sisters. They played three witches, back in like colonial period, I think. Yeah, Salem, Massachusetts, in 1693, and by and large, they were like their little house or on like outskirts of the village. Now, it appears, there's been like at least rumors about them being witches and everything like that. And considering like how like pilgrims at that time burned a lot of women to the stake or hung them, even if they were suspected of witchcraft, I'm surprised they've been carrying on as long as they have before they eventually got around to them. Maybe because it's just like speculation, but even then, any whiff of it, there's no questions asked. They'll just do it because they were just ignorant at that time. Zachary Banks, one of the villagers, the head villager's son, had to go track down his little sister, who has been missed. and he heads down there, tries to save her, but he ends up getting turned into a cat. It turns out to be immortal, and the sisters suck the soul from his sister Emily, and they just to keep themselves young, they absorb the soul from children. They got busted by the townsfolk, and Winifred has this spell book with an eyeball on it, and the spell book mentions a prophecy of some sort that on All Hallows Eve, if a virgin lights a black candle, then the witches will return. And I guess when I was a kid at that time, it seems like very a cool idea, but it's 1693 up to in the 90s, it's over 100 years. At no point in time, because you fast forward to the present, Salem, the town of Salem, idolized these three, and they apparently tell stories in class about these three. How is it that at no point in time through the course of 100 years that nobody who happens to know a virgin to come on All Hallows Eve to light this black candle? That part has always stuck with me. I mean, maybe I ignored it a little bit because this is just pretty much dumb fun. But it's just that, rewatching this, I have to pay a little bit more attention for the review. And that did seems like a kind of an oversight, because it sounds kind of very particular with the rules, but through the course of 100 years, by the law average, at least somebody around that time, at least when the form of matches at the very bare minimum were invented, then lighters, which would suggest maybe somewhere between, I'm pretty sure they had matches back in the 1940s, even the 20s. So at the very bare minimum, somewhere between the 20s up until the 1990s, before our other main character comes into play, Max Dennison, played by Amari Katz, coming to play to light the candle eventually. It just, I don't know. It should have been released. That's all I'm saying. At some point. But anyway, the three are hanged. Fast forward to the present. Then this, it's the 90s. Back then, because I grew up in the 90s, I was born in 1988, so I grew up in the 90s, watched a lot of movies, and a lot of the 90s films got stuck in this kind of trope that not a lot of 90s films tend to do. I'm not sure the writers, what's going on with the writers at that time, when they kept reusing certain things in 90s kids movies, especially that New Kid in Town, LA dude, sometimes into a small town kind of thing. You usually see this in Christmas Hallmark movies sometimes too. Coming to town, and he immediately within a week already has two bullies, and these are very 90s bullies too. Back in the 90s, you got very, well, in the movies they play dumb jocks or whatever, but in real life there were a lot of bullies in the 90s, and they stuff kids in lockers, wedgies, stealing lunch money, that kind of thing. But you know, the way they're portrayed here is just like just total goofballs, and like picking on this one singular kid for nothing. You only been around for a week, not enough time to formulate any kind of animosity towards a kid you barely know. And it's just like, let's make fun of the new kid kind of situation. And when he gets home, because I remember back when I was a kid, because I watched a lot of movies where like, teen boys always have this room full of just random cool stuff. Like a typical boys' room, and he has like a drum set there. And sometimes other movies, a guy has like a piano or guitar, electric guitar specifically. Is something like when I was a kid, like that seemed cool, so I wanted something like that. I'm glad nobody wasted their money on that kind of crap, because why would you buy your kid something that he probably gonna give up on within like maybe a month or two at the very least? But yeah, that's a typical boys' room in a lot of 90s films. But I admit I wanted to have rooms like that. But I settled with my video games and my action figures, which eventually grew into pop figures now. Anyway, Max is put in charge of taking his little sister out. Danny, played by Thora Birch. She she usually there's a conflicting lines in this little segment where she mentions that she can't wait to go out trick-or-treating again, or something to that effect. Just hinting that she's went trick-or-treating before. She's 8 years old. She's obviously been trick-or-treating before. But then she says, like, mentions something to the effect like, like, I never go out. It's like, did you mean that you this is your first time going out with your brother and not your parents? Because I'm pretty sure that's what they was trying to get at. But like I said, it's two conflicting kind of lines that was given to this girl, and that was just confusing to me. And then the parents, not really. That's like your typical, kind of movie parents back in the 90s, where like they out, they're going out kind of situation because Halloween night. It's a small town. There's a lot of parties going on with like probably oodles amount of parents or adults in general. To like there's a school crush that Max is interested in, and she has some kind of eyes wide shut type of Victorian party, like straight up like interview with a vampire type of costumes going on, while there's like this big old monster mash bash going on in another part of town with where Max and Danny's parents are going to. So while the parents are out, Max feeling like a little distraught because he's new kid town. He's getting picked on. Being like, he's like studying on this girl that for a weird reason, because he played when he's introduced in this in a classroom. He's overhearing the story about from the teacher telling about the Sanderson sisters, and he's he's skeptical because like the small town is kind of like they don't know any better, and they make fun of him because he's from the big city LA, and it's like they're not playing very smart here. They're not played that very smart. He's calling Halloween like a conglomerate made by it's kind of capitalistic idea made up by the candy corporation kind of situation. And he's getting booed, and then like his crush, uh, this girl, what's her name, uh, Allison, played by Vanessa Shaw. She corrects him right in front of the class, saying like, you know, uh, you know, with the true story of how Halloween began is when, like, there's a time of year when the spirits walk the bridge between, or the wall or veil between the living and the dead is as thinnest. So that's when the people from beyond can walk amongst the living. And she getting like a standing ovation and that kind of thing. Doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody applaud that? I mean, I'm not going to totally question or at least harp on the fact that, like, the teachers, like, get into the spirit of Halloween. I guess, since during this period, or at least in this movie, Halloween fell on a weekday, so they still had to go to school, obviously. And when I was in school, at least in middle school, and younger, if Halloween fell on a weekday, normally we all get to dress up, and go to school in our costumes. That was fun. But it's not like a big slight against this movie. I still care a great deal about this movie. But, other than the teacher, nobody else is like, dressed in a specific costume for the holiday. Like, maybe just like a school mandate, like, but you letting this teacher dress up as a witch. Y'all pretty sure it's obvious that you care about, this holiday, because this city, or at least this town, is specifically tied to the Salem witch trials. I've never been to Salem, Massachusetts, but I imagine Halloween's a big deal in that part of the city, or at least that part of the U.S., more so than most other states in the U.S., because that's where the Salem witch trials happened the most. So it was like intriguingly tied. Yeah. So he's taking his little sister out trick or treating. He's like bummed out. He's not in the spirit at all. He's kind of like the Scrooge of Halloween at this point, because he's just like a punk little kid. And so he goes to this fancy kind of house. I guess, Allison's family's got money, and they all three go out to the Sanderson sisters' house just to mess around and then just to see it, or at least she wants to show him around just to, because he said like he's just trying to hook up with her. It's like teenagers, hormones are raging kind of situation, and it's like, and then because I'm blanking on the prior scene in his house, but the little sister brought up about Max loves your yabos. What's yabo? It was like, what, like, nobody ever called boobs or titties or there's other names for breast. Not one time in the history of words has anybody ever called breast yabos. That was weird. That's you got like every kind of, if you look up in a thesaurus, as every matter of fact, let's look up in the thesaurus right now, because if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words, but I'm telling you right now, there's no other word for breast beyond the ones that we all know to heart. Okay, there you go. Breast, bosom, nipple, front, teat, mammary glands, chest, bust, mammalia, udder, and of course you got boobs, titties, knockers. So yeah, yabos isn't a freaking word for boobs at all. I don't know why the writers put that one in. I think it's probably, I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things when like certain writers put something in, think it's going to catch on. Obviously didn't. Hell, like even like Batman Beyond is like, I can still remember because I never, until I rewatched this, I forgot about the word yabos in that scene and never even brought that up again. Maybe if they kept repeating it, maybe it would probably caught on, but obviously it's very thorough ways, because like you got certain. I was about to use an example. I'm blank. I just lost it. I was about to use an example for another movie where it's like they, use the word and repeat it a lot of times. Like how Nightmare Before Christmas. It's like you hear the song like this is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween. That's an instant nostalgic word. Great quote to this day, that kind of thing. So they go to the Sanders sister's house, and then this dude, it was like every kid back in the 90s always got like a freaking lighter just to be cool, and it's like I'm gonna be ragging on these kids quite a bit in this video, but he got this little zip lighter, lights up in the first try. Usually, like I don't smoke, but I had like uncles, grandparents, they smoked, and I'm pretty sure, no, not my grandfather. Somebody had like a zip lighter. I can't remember who it was, but they don't light up on the first try. I even light up a little lighter once or twice as a kid from my grandparents, and those things hurt, by the way, because you got the little grated things and it hurts my thumb every time I do it. So I was trying to make sure I get it right the first time. And even still, I was kind of chicken shit because I don't want to get hurt by the fucking flame, because it kind of like, especially it kind of waves and it's like, oh my god, do like just light this light this cigarette up so I can cut this thing off, because I do not want to be too close to this flame with my thumb. I was paranoid as hell, and it like that grated stuff hurt my thumb, and like it I hate it. Like I'm so glad I didn't pick up smoking at all, because I don't want to get my have my lungs infected. I think I smoked weed like at least 5 or 6 years ago for the first time. Actually smoke, just to try it. Didn't work. I feel like my lungs was like catching on fire. It's like it felt like they was like igniting almost. I think, not that I'm opposed to weed, I think I'd probably be better off with like edibles or pot brownies, just to make sure like I get the high, but I can't handle this trying to smoke it. Like that's not me. Or even like hookah, that'd be better. But yeah, smoking like the traditional way, I can't do it. But he lights up the candle, kind of like like everybody's sound like, no, don't do it. And it's like, come on, it's just a little Hocus Pocus. And then he lights it up, and boom, the sisters return. And like, Winifred, like, and shoot, Mary, has a line, and I still quote it every time like Halloween comes up, because you see this post a lot on, as soon as like October hits, after September is over officially, and that midnight hit when it's officially October 1st, then like up pops the like Twitter and Facebook posts with like Mary like doing her famous line, "I smell children." Like it's like it's like she says a lot, and it's like Like, when somebody says, "I smell children," you know where it's coming from, because this movie is just, it's, I won't say it's the king of nostalgia, but it's like damn near up there as far as like the ultra nostalgia, because it's just like rooted in especially Halloween, but it's just like one of those nostalgia movies that it's like, I don't know, it's like permeates people's you know especially when they grow up in the 90s, it kind of permeates their lives. I'm not sure about kids today, because I'm pretty sure kids, people who grew up in the same age group as me, who has children, probably showing them movies that they grew up with. Honestly, I know when I have kids, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to show them like Hocus Pocus, Nightmare Before Christmas, all the classic Halloween stuff. A lot of the Marvel and DC movies. Something like like the first two Predator films and Predators, but those are probably the only three. First two Alien movies. A lot of anime stuff. I'm definitely going to show them Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, Beyblade, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Probably gonna wait a little while before Death Note, but it's just like it's just certain things that you just want to pass on to your kids and like, no, look at this. This is good. The animated Batman and Spider-Man shows from the 90s, X-Men as well, that kind of thing. And Hocus Pocus is definitely got to be on everybody's list to show their kids, so the next generations can keep this perpetually going, because I mean, some of them writing is not too great, but it's Halloween. It's like it's like right up there with Nightmare Before Christmas and Addams Family. It's just like it's Halloween, and Winifred attacks Max with some lightning. Now that Star Wars over the years has become permeated into like the zeitgeist, when she does like the lightning hands. I'm pretty sure people made this joke a long time ago, but now we got some context, or at least comparison. She doing like the Emperor Palpatine lightning hands on this little dude, and Danny and I forgot that little Allison, that love interest, tries to help him. The Black Cat, Zachary Binks, is trying to help him out, because he's been there protecting the house, making sure like nobody lights that candle over the years. I guess that would explain why through the course of 100 years, he's been making sure nobody try to light that candle. But at some point he had to be asleep on the job. That's what I'm saying. It's like, even if he was watching the candle, at some point he had to sleep, and somebody at some point had to sneak in, didn't realize the cat is there, and try to light that thing. This is my take on it. But he uses Max used the lighter too, because at some point, for some reason, somebody installed sprinkler systems in an old, I guess they used this house. They kept it, roughly the same thing with slight adjustments, like a sprinkler system, because this was for a while used as like a museum until like too much spooky stuff was happening, mostly because of probably Zachary Binks. They stopped, showing this to the public. So it's just been kept here. And so he lights up the sprinkler system, freaking the women out, because it takes them a while to realize they're in a different time period, and there's certain technology they're not familiar with, and they freaking out over. It's mindless mugging, but it's just funny. And this might be slightly, just slightly inappropriate, but it's something that I noticed that I don't think I ever noticed throughout the courses of every Halloween since this movie came out, that I did not notice something. If you're, watching this video, I want you to rewatch Hocus Pocus, especially if you got it on Disney Plus. That's where I watched it. At that scene where they make their escape after lighting off the sprinkler system. Sarah Jessica Parker's character, Sarah. Why don't I just call her Sarah? She because they're cluing, they're getting a clue that this is not raining inside. This is just water. This is normal water. Because Sarah's played like the kind of the dimwit, the Curly Howard of the group, and she's like sticking her tongue, and like trying to drink the water, take in the water and stuff. And for the moment when she does that, look real close, the way she's sticking her tongue out and like just like open her mouth in a particular way, and like not to get my mind at a gutter or anything like that, but if somebody would have at some point memed that or gifted that and put it in like an out of context little scenario, that could have been like a very funny moment to post on the internet, just like just a caption of some kind of like a dirty joke with that freeze frame of that moment when she's sticking her tongue out trying to lap up the water, and it's like, God, I don't know why nobody didn't gift it that. That is just like a spot on. I was like, and mostly because not that Sarah Jessica Parker is not a beautiful woman. She is a beautiful woman, despite certain jokes made by her by South Park in her later years. Let's be honest, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who think this. In this movie, this is probably like the hottest Sarah Jessica Parker has ever looked in anything. This movie, particular, I didn't know Sarah Jessica Parker's real name. I just knew her as like the girl from Hocus Pocus when I was a little kid. When you're a little kid, you barely know, or at least have the conscientious notion to find out like an actor's name who played a role in the movie that you was watching. It took me a little while before I knew who Michael Keaton was, after a good few years watching the first two Batman Tim Burton movies. And it just never like caught on until I actually had to do a bit of research on this kind of stuff, or at least pay attention to the credits. But yeah, like as a little kid, like I had like a mad crush on her, because like she was definitely the hottest of the three. Obviously, they did that on purpose, but not that like Bette Miller or Kathy, because I seen both of them in other movies over the years. I think this was the first time I ever seen Sarah Jessica Parker in anything. The other two I seen, I seen Kathy in I think Sister Act was the first time I ever seen Kathy in anything, even before this movie. Because I'm pretty sure Sister Act came out before Hocus Pocus. And I seen Bette Midler in a couple of 80s movies back in the day before this one. But this is the movie that I like all three of them in. They play off each other so perfectly. They are having a ball. They're like, they playing this very seriously but very silly, and they just like it's like ping pong. Like certain actors have the kind of chemistry on set where like they can just fit the mold, and it's just like it's phenomenal how I love this. Seeing these, because that's why like I can just easily watch a movie with just these three, and I'll just love it. Because these kids, it's not that bad. They're working off the material they have to work with. Because, some 90s movies, even prior or even a little bit after the 90s, some child actors, or at least, whomever's directing those child actors, don't do a necessarily good job in making sure certain dialogue is read, or, it's just, they just don't function well. They're not all going to be like Macaulay Culkin here. even still, like Hollywood was not too kind to child actors, for the most part. So like, yeah, the children, like, a little bit lackluster for me. They have their moments. You definitely need them to move the plot forward and like get certain things done. But it's just these three. It's just so fun to watch. And you see them like when they stepping out their house and they getting freaked out by, like, the black road. They thought it was like, like a tar pit or something like that. But and then it's like a funny moment where, like, Winifred just pushes her sister, like, just to make sure, like, like, all right, let's see. It's like, and like if she dies, she dies. Another famous quote, Rocky. And it's like, and then, like, just without a beat, and it's like they do this move when they like they walk in together in unison, like kind of like soldiers when they do like a march. And the way they do it is just like so cool, because like, that little marching thing they do is a it's like, I love that. I don't know, I'm pretty sure it was the director's choice, but if they would have came up with that, I don't care who did it, but that was like a great choice, just to make like they're on the hunt. And it's like, and that choice of movement, it was so smart, because it's like, that's distinctly them. No other kind of I don't think it was ever even like, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's never even been parodied in anything beyond somebody's dressed as these three in like costume parties or cons or whatever like that, because they're doing, like, they hiking up their skirts and go and it's like, God, and that the grunts, and it's like, they're so in tandem. It is just so good. The kids run to the graveyard. Zachary's letting them know, like, hey, there's hollow ground, which is typical in a lot of, like, witches lore and everything like that. And specifically when it comes to like evil witches, they can't stand on hollow ground. But you forgot, witches can't fly on brooms, which they did. Winifred resurrected one of her ex-boyfriends from this grave that's still there. And crap, because he's a famous actor to this day. Crap. What is that guy's name? Because he was Abe Sapien in Hellboy, I think. Because like the things he's in, you never see his face half the time. He's always in prosthetics in a lot of his roles. What the heck is his name? It's not on this list. What is that doggone name? God. Oh, God. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, I'm blanking it. Like, or I could have just looked up the IMDb. Like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Sorry about this. I'm just like, Oh, there he goes. Went right by Doug Jones. Yeah, he was Abe Savian. I knew I got that right. Sorry about that. It's just like it was just going to nag me the whole video if I don't figure that out. I'm pretty sure everybody in the comments will just be yelling at my name after the fact. But yeah, he played this ghoul. You guys mouth shut because apparently Winifred killed him for hitting on Sarah. Not surprised like she didn't punish Sarah for like instigating because she pretty much like a very lustful character. But he's tracking them down, relentlessly, and while they're making their escape, they try to go through town trying to find their parents, trying to get some help. They run into this cop, and it's like a kind of like a dumb, I won't say a dumb, but it's slightly dumb because they trying to go to a police officer to get some help. But it turns out he's like a guy in a costume, but normally the rules are, which they state in this movie, that it's illegal to dress as a cop. But given it's Halloween, don't know if it's supposed to be like an exception to the rule, or you gotta actually immediately let people know that you're not a real cop immediately. This is just a costume, or the other person should be aware that it's Halloween. All in likelihood, someone might be dressed as a cop just for a costume, but he's riding like a motorcycle. That I'm pretty sure it looked like an actual police chopper, but that's irrelevant. And they trying to tell them this fake cop the whole story, but they should be aware that they're gonna sound crazy. They could just say, "Hey, help us! 3 people are trying to come after us. The crazy old ladies, help us!" Get up a posse or something like that, because they're coming after us. Help us, that kind of thing. They didn't do that. Then the fake cop is like playing into the role too much, and they just ran off trying to find their parents, and you find out like, oh, he's not a real cop. That was like a whole waste of a scene. It was still kind of dumb in my opinion. You obviously see these kids are in distress. I mean, like, you think they're faking it, but it's like, it's Halloween. People do some wild shit like on this day. Like probably, I don't know if it's like twice. Yeah, I would say twice as much than almost any other day of the year, because the reckless. People like to get all reckless and out of pocket. But it's whatever. They eventually find a party where the parents are, and they're trying to like tell them, like, hey, we need your help. We need some help. And it's like I said earlier, parents in 90s films, 80s and 90s films more specifically, are usually played pretty damn dumb. When it's like, your kids out of breath, they're running, they're scared, they're nervous, and something like that. You think you'd be like in panic mode as a parent. You see your kids run into you, out of breath, scared, all out of sorts, and like, oh, calm down, what's going on? And then you, but they just ultimately, just not, they just too into, the whole party thing, just like they take them too seriously. Then the sisters come in, and you get to play that awesome number, "I Put a Spell on You." Still like one of like iconic Halloween songs. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure there's like, I'm pretty sure if there is a Halloween soundtrack, This Is Halloween and "I Put a Spell on You" would be, and then like the Michael Myers Halloween theme. Those 3 in particular, if there was like an album, those 3 should be on that list, because like, it's just iconic songs that like really Oh, and the Goosebumps theme song. I think the Goosebumps theme song should definitely be on like the album to a Halloween. Matter of fact, somebody. Matter of fact, at some point, maybe in the future, when I get my own place, because I love the Halloween season. Like I can decorate my place for Halloween and Christmas. Those two specific holidays that I like, celebrating more than anything. And it's like I have like a Christmas album, like Christmas R&B and rap album, and I have my Halloween album that I like to play when I'm home and I just want to have like a nice little, you know, like a chill evening, putting like a pumpkin spice scented candle, and like if I'm fix dinner or something like that, I can put that on. Or if I'm bringing like somebody over, like I put that on, just like to get into like the real spirit. You get the this is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 and then you get like I put a spell on you. Oh my god, I love that freaking song. It is, and then and for some reason they just everybody just break into song and dance, and it's just a whole thing. It's amazing. Uh, then like it's a chant in a way, and they enchant the adults, in the area. So, which is weird. I'm not sure why they never enchant everybody. It's just so that way they're in the building, while you're enchanting everybody, but maybe they just got caught up in the moment, because they're very theatrical. These three, they manage to escape, but they end up trying to make a last stand by triggering them to while Mary is sniffing them out. They just use that against them to lead them to the school that's closed for the night, which I'm not sure how they even broke in, because when like a school is closed for the day, it's locked tight as a drum, and they're inside. They're leading these three into like look like a not well, I guess it's a boiler room, but there's like a place where like you just burn stuff, and it's like you got like I'm not sure even schools even have this, because I don't remember my school having like this big old room where you burn stuff, and like everything like goes out this big chimney. It's like this. I don't think schools have that. That's now I'm thinking about it, that's kind of weird. But they burn witches. They're celebrating the fact that they're done, and they made it through the night, because like as soon as the sun rises, their immortality is kaput. They're dead. But they end up coming back, kidnapping as well, because Sarah enchants the children with her siren song, and they come in mass, in like in a daze, walking towards like the Sanderson's household. But maybe it's because they on like a revenge kick on these kids, because they been leading on this little wild goose chase all freaking night. Maybe they just really geared towards just absorbing their souls in particular first. But I'm thinking like, all right, you kidnap Danny, and you got the book, and eventually the brother comes to the rescue and everything like that. But I'm just saying, like, you eventually get the book, and you just wait for any other kid. They even kidnap the bullies at a certain point when they mock their looks, and it's just, you could have just easily waited for any other kid to have like a spare, rather than trying to hunt these three insignificant kids down, because time's of the essence at this point. You I think at this point you probably got like maybe 30 minutes before like the sun rises and stuff like that, and now they save Danny. They on the run again, going back to the graveyard, and you know, right. It was like a funny moment because like from Billy, because he had his sewn mouth because of Winifred when he died. He managed to take a knife from Max and cut open the threads, so he just tell Winifred to go to hell. And like a lot of times his head keep getting knocked off, and it's like he's losing body parts throughout this film. Billy's cool, but it's like, I mean, it's like it depends on how you personally feel about Billy. Me, I can take or leave him. Like honestly, he doesn't hurt the plot, but he doesn't really serve the plot. Just like some added comic relief. Oh, there's another part where like you don't know this. I didn't even know this is some boomer type of actor from back in the day. Gary Marshall and Penny Marshall, the brother and sister, who the Sanderson sisters confused to being the devil, but they quickly realized that was not their master and everything like that. It kind of stopped the movie dead for a brief second with that stuff. That's something they could have definitely left out. I'm not sure if that's just meant for like if when this movie came out in the theaters, maybe whomever is the parents or grandparents might recognize these two, because apparently I believe Gary Marshall was some kind of director, or is a director, or was. I'm not sure if he's dead now at this point, because he was kind of old at that time. But yeah, that part really stopped the movie dead. I didn't really care. I never cared. I never liked that. I usually, unless I'm watching it with like nieces or nephews, or whatever, other than that, I might skip over that, because like I've seen this a lot of times, like, or at least I watch it to a certain point and then skip over it when it stops being funny. And then there was like a funny moment once they leave out the place. Some snot-nosed kids stole their broomsticks, and they really furious. It's like Winifred is just like so just annoyed, and she got this like when she does an annoyed face, it's so funny. Bette Midler is like amazing as Winifred. Oh my god, she just like she got that like she just fell at this. Just God, I love this freaking film. She was like, it was like, oh my god, these little street urchins. And it's like it took a while for them to catch on that Hallows Eve when kids just run amok and just like dress up and like celebrate, and like there was like a funny little moment from Sarah's like amok. Oh my god, I love this film. But anyway, as Winifred got like Max in her grasp after he took the potion meant for his sister, just to keep his sister from being, to end up like Emily earlier in the film, he, struggle while like, the sun's rising, and it's like he's like putting up a fight just to make sure he lasts long enough until that sunrise. And like as soon as she has him in her grasp, finally, the sun rising, and ends up killing the sisters. And Zachary, is released from the spell. Even like Emily's ghost come back. Like I'm not sure. Like if like the witches are like the ghost container from Ghostbusters, and like all the souls they took are being released after their deaths, then shouldn't be more than just Emily walking around in spirit form. Because if that's not the case, then she just a spirit just let's popped out looking for her brother, I don't know. It's supposed to be like a nice little happy ending. It is, and uh, you know, he's thanking them and saying goodbye to Danny. That they really form like a real bond of friendship through the course of their adventure, and they walk off, towards the sunset into the afterlife. And that's the end of the movie. But man, like I said, it's like every once in a while in the '90s, you get like some pretty cool kids, some child actors, and like if they're directed right, they can produce some good material and some good scenes. Sometimes I guess this would be like middle of the road type of acting from these kids in this movie, because I've seen worse, and these are not terrible, but it could have been more, or at least better directing from this director, as far as like certain lines being read or certain performances. But given the time, like they they did the best they could, and I can't begrudge it. I can still watch them, and they're not annoying to hear. It's just like certain choices that it's just like very tropey. But like I said, the real draw is these three. Now, of course, you get like a little. There's like end credits, or at least little, because at the time end credits, or at least like scenes from the end are like very rare to see. Kind of like the end of Freddy versus Jason. You see like Freddy Krueger's after. Spoiler alert, from like I don't know, 12, 13, 14-year-old movie, where like a headless Freddy's like winking at the camera, signifying there's maybe a part 2 to Freddy versus Jason. Never is, never will be. The book is eye open, signifying like it's not over. Considering that it's going to be a Hocus Pocus 2 pretty soon. As stated by Zachary, the witches are dead, considering that he's released from the spell. So I'm not sure how you bring back 3 witches that they only got like one shot to come back and they blew it. So they blew up. So it'll be interesting how that can work, bringing these 3 back somehow. It's magic, so you can make it work, I guess. And it'll be cool to see if like these 3 child actors who grew up to be like some decent actors in their own right come back, kind of like the way they did with like It Chapter 2. I've never seen It or Part 2. I'm not much of a horror guy, really, because like the only horror films that I usually dig is like classic horror movie monsters like Dracula, the Wolfman, like the Mummy, or if slashers, there's only like 2. There's the first Halloween movie, and then like the Scream franchise. Those are the only ones I actually can actually watch. Everything other than that, like I'm not a slasher horror film kind of dude. I'm really not. So you'll never see me like do, other than the first Halloween movie and then like the Scream films. Maybe I'll do those next year, but because like I already got like a decent amount here of Halloween films to do for this month. So you won't see me do more until like the next group or next batch next year. But man, I love his films, like especially these 3, and like I mean like God, just see these 3 again, just come back. Just I was hoping they don't end up like the way they did with like 2016 Ghostbusters, because that really flopped like hard. I wouldn't say they flopped hard, and because when I went to see it in the theaters, it was alright. it's it's like it's like it didn't even leave me angry or anything like that. I was left with okay, yeah, okay. It was a movie. I'm glad I saw it. Like it's worth at least one watch. I haven't rewatched it since. Maybe next year I will, because I plan on doing like the first Ghostbusters movie at some point this month. But the sequel and well, I'm definitely gonna have to do like because I'm going to go to see the movie, the official reboot or not a reboot, but it's like a re-sequel. They kind of waved away the 2016 version because by box office standards, it was kind of a flop. It wasn't bad, but it didn't generate enough credibility or box office revenue to warrant an official sequel to that version. So it's kind of like they're concentrating on just the first two and then leading into this kind of like new updated reboot that's coming in next month. So I'll be doing like the first Ghostbusters and then the eventually next month for the reboot, and I'll do a review of that. But 2016 and then the second Ghostbusters film, I'll reserve that for next year for October. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of Hocus Pocus. Like is it still one of the or your favorites, or at least the one of the best Halloween films that that you always go back to? What do you like? What you dislike? Is it still fun? Does it still hold up? Is it still nostalgic? I'm just curious to know like all those thoughts. Oh, by the way, thank you all who the recent few subscribers to the channel, the YouTube channel. You guys have been amazing. Like showing y'all love. The views and like everything like that, especially the chaotic lore videos. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. There will be some new chaotic lore videos. Only a couple this month because I'm like so busy with like all these movie reviews and I'm wrapping up a couple of video games walkthrough. I got a couple. The Miles Morales PS5 walkthrough, and then I'm nearly done with Horizon Zero Dawn. And by next month, I will be starting Pokemon Brilliant Diamond walkthrough. Can't remember if Halo Infinite is coming out this year. I'm pretty sure it is, because that'll probably be another thing. But so far, like my workload is being a little lighter, so I can work on some other stuff. But yeah, look forward to all that. And Twitch is active fun. It's like some kind of leak situation. It's starting to affect me exporting videos videos that I made from being like moved over to YouTube directly. And Twitch support is like not helpful. It never is helpful. And like even if you try to contact them, you don't hear from them from like a month after the problem's probably already solved. So it's like a complete waste of time. So hopefully I'm gonna give it some time. Hopefully some point this weekend it'll be resolved, because maybe like I'll pop in to make some more video content. Hopefully it's not gonna like screw anything up. I just want to make sure it's gonna be a while before like I have to worry about any kind of like Twitch expiring my videos. It usually takes like at least a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks at the most. So hopefully the problems will be solved so I can like start uploading things. However, I don't want to do too much because like that takes up time, and I want to make sure that I get the stuff uploaded in a nice little package. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit for the Halloween Town review this time. The 2H. Pardon me earlier in the video because I'm sort of confusing the two because it's 2 H words, and Halloween themed, and I'm getting turned around. It's late. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Oh, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. The links are in the description. And yeah, take care. See you guys soon.